Hi there, guys. I hope everybody's having a great Saturday. The weather, the weather here is absolutely gorgeous. We had a very hot week. We actually hit over 30 degrees here earlier in the week, which pushes us over 90 degrees for those of you who live in the US. It was very hot, very sticky. We had storm warnings galore. Nothing came of it, thankfully. But we did have a nice little spatter of rain here yesterday, and today it is absolutely gorgeous. It's a very cool and balmy 22 degrees, and it is just beautiful. Not barely a cloud in the sky. Makes for a great and happy day. And that's why I'm sitting in the studio and I'm going to paint something sunny and bright and colorful to put on my front door for the summer, and which is why I came up with this Hello Summer door sign. I just love this one. I love the colors in it. It's very bright. It has a nice cool aspect to it. It's very clean and very simple. And it's a great project to go back to basics. So for those of you that have been painting for a very long time, this will be a nice little refresher for some very basic technique. And for those of you that don't paint or are just beginning your painting journey, this one's a lot of fun, and it will clean up a few of those basic techniques that you might have questions about. So don't hesitate to ask me a question if you have one. Having said that, we're going to talk about the giveaways for today. They're a little on the special side today. We have a nice little Create bag, and the Create bag is filled with some goodies from Tombow. It doesn't make noise. There's some goodies from Tombow, and the other thing is there's a beautiful 5-brush mini set in Dynasty Black Gold. So there is a 20-aught detail liner, a 10-aught detail liner. I know. And you've got a 1/8 inch flat shader and a mini fan. So it's a beautiful little detail set. I think you're going to love it. 5 brushes, 3 of them to give away today, along with some other goodies. We always put some other fun stuff in there. And in order to get in on those giveaways, all you have to do is just hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, just hit all the buttons. Share it, like it, just do the thing. You know what to do. So we'll have a little bit of fun giving those away towards the end of the class. And I think we're going to have a good time today. I know Renee's going to have a good time today.
I got to go take care of it now.
That's what I mean. You're going to have a good time today. She's a little extra today.
Very.
She's a little extra. She's a handful, let me tell you. I got herded coming away from the backyard today. She herded me all the way to the studio. So she is a handful today. And she's keeping both my husband and Renee busy. So if you guys are ready to get started on today's Hello Summer Sunshine or Summer Welcome sign, so am I. Thank you. So, hello. This is the project right here. This is the Hello Summer Welcome sign. It's such a pretty and very simple project. I didn't go overboard with this one. I wanted to keep it very clean and simple and very fresh, and this is the result. So there's a little bit of lettering. We're going to do some basic shading. We're going to do some basic stroke work, and we're going to do a little bit of stenciling. So there's some nice, very simple and very relaxed techniques involved in this one. So pour yourself a cup of tea and get ready to paint. So I've prepped my surface just a little ahead of time here. I'll take my line drawing off. I have my line drawings already on. You probably can't see it on the screen, but they're already there. The first thing we're going to do is develop the background. And in this particular case, I'm using a very simple polka dot stencil. This is M222, which is a 1/4 inch polka dot stencil. It's a very straightforward one. I really like this one, but I'm a fan of polka dots. I like polka dots. There's something kind of retro and very delicate about polka dots. So I went with a 1/4 inch. You could use a larger one if you wanted to. If you wanted to make this a bit more contemporary and a little less vintage, a bigger polka dot would do the job. But I really liked this size. Now, the other thing I like to do is make sure that my stencil kind of goes off the surface so that I don't just have polka dots inside the area. They have to go off the surface a little bit. So I'm going to tape this in place. And I'm using a Dynasty Stencil Pro stencil brush. This is a 5/8. You could use a 1/2 inch, whatever works for you. And I'm going to use a little bit of warm white. I want to get a good load so it's nice and even. Blot it on a little piece of paper towel, and then in a circular fashion, you're going to apply that warm white. Now, these polka dots do not have to be perfect. They don't have to be fully opaque. They don't have to even be complete. We're just going to get a little color on here. I'm a big fan of polka dots. And who all is on here today? Patricia Kent Baxter. Thanks for joining us. And Carol Colbert. Good morning from sunny Arkansas. It's beautiful and sunny here today. It's an absolutely gorgeous day. And Lucy. Hi, Joan. Oh, you didn't miss the base color, Joan. I forgot to tell you what it was. The base color for this one is Bahama Blue, which is my favorite Americana color. I love Bahama Blue. I just think it's wonderful, a wonderful blue. A little bit of green in it. It's a very happy color, which I think works extremely well for this. Hi, Robin. Miss Robin Storm. Virginia Hedges. Hello, Virginia. And Cindy Braden. Hello. I do love my polka dots. That's why I have so many polka dot stencils in different sizes. Yeah, let me see. Linda Puckett Grass. Hello, Linda. Marjorie Eaton. Hello, sweetheart. Eileen Miller. Hello. Thank you for joining us. And Janet Demon. Hello. And Carrie Henderson. So great to see you guys here every week. Hi, Sue. And Lois Ann from Bear, Delaware. Lovely place. Nancy Rodriguez. Hello. Happy Saturday to you too. And Carol Eves from Ontario. And Diane Hendricks. Leanne Gossett. You're trimming your hedges. I don't have hedges. And everything that needed trimming in my property has been trimmed mercilessly. We cut everything back as far as we possibly can because by the end of the summer, the plants have just lost their minds. And Carol May. Bonnie Dixon, you're in Phoenix. I imagine it's quite warm there. And Patsy Justice. I'm almost done. I'm going to double check my polka dots. I love polka dots. They're just a fun pattern to put on and simple. There's something playful about them, and I think that's what appeals to me about this, is they're simple and they're playful. There we go. So we have polka dots. Now, if you want to, if you've gotten them quite opaque, if you want to, you can lightly sand this just to distress the polka dots, soften them a little bit. I'm going to dry it first. I love this thing. This is that heated craft tool. I absolutely love this thing. I have 2 of them. And a little birdie told me today that Sandy McTeer just got a shipment of these things in. So if you want to head over, she's got a whole bunch of sales on right now on stencils and a whole bunch of other things. She has a coupon code for me. So if you use the coupon code Tracy M, then you'll get a discount on Sandy's website. So if you're looking for anything, whether it's stencils or one of these heated tools, because this thing is a godsend, just hop on over to Sandy McTeer Designs and pick up one of those. Don't forget to use that coupon code. So we've got our polka dots in place. Such fun. This is so fun. Now, my shading color for this is one of Decorart's new colors. I love this. This is Mystic Teal. This was fairly close to Mermaid Tail. This one's just a bit more green. And it's a bit more vibrant too, and very transparent. So it's ideal for what we're doing here. So I'm going to use a little bit of Mystic Teal. So, and I said that so that if you don't have Mystic Teal and you do have Mermaid Tail, feel free to use it. It will work. So, we're going to use that Mystic Teal. I'm going to get a smaller angled shader. I want a 3/8. This is a Dynasty Faux Squirrel. I like my 3/8. I'm going to a little bit of Joe Sonia's in my brush. And hi, Ann Fogg, and Heidi Ferlot, and Deb Pels, and Denise Chavez, and Vicky. Vicky, good to see you. And Kathy Rain, nice to see you guys. And Becca Buckner. Awesome. So great to see you guys here. So I'm using a little bit of that Mystic Teal. And we're going to put a shadow on the right side on the background of the lettering. And I'm using a fair amount of Joe Sonia's on here. I'm also going to use my mop because you don't want this to be a really harsh shadow. So I'm going to use my mop. I want these to be very soft. So you can see it's not a heavy, heavy shadow. Don't want it to be. But it is going to make a big difference in the appearance of this lettering. And I like to do this shading first. And this is just a very soft float. I'm going to soften that with my mop. Now, all the mop does is just diffuse the edge of the float a little bit, so that you have some control over that shadow. Here we go. And I like to have a little bit of control over it. So always on the right, darkest value towards the edge of the letter. And if you go over the edge of the line drawing a little, that's okay. Don't panic because you're going to be painting this lettering anyway. But if you get these floats done first, it's going to make your life a little bit easier in the end. So soften those. I've got a little ridge here I'm not happy with. So there we go. Now, I also like to take my float underneath the lettering. I know this is hard to see. Just like that. And it just helps lift this lettering off the surface a little bit. Just makes things that much cleaner. I love this. It's a very clean combination, almost monochromatic. And it works very, very well. Has a nice springy feel to it, which appeals greatly to me. So I've got all those little shadows in. I've got one more right in here. So that when our lettering gets painted a little later, there we go. So it gives that lettering a little bit more height, just a little, and it doesn't take much. So I'm going to dry that real quick. And then we're going to put a float around the outside edge, just a weak one. We don't need it to be really, really strong. I'm going to grab a bigger angled shader for this. And same color, that Mystic Teal. I'm just going to put a little bit at the edges. And I do mean just a little. I don't want this strong. It's just a little at the outside edge. Not even a perfect float. But don't forget to soften it a little. Just gives those edges a nice, oh goodness. Just gives those edges a little more definition. It is a very, very soft float. There's not much to it. Just enough to darken the edge a little bit. You don't need a ton of color in there because we're going to be putting a whole bunch of stuff in there. So very light. I like to thin this Mystic Teal out quite a bit. You can add quite a bit of water to it. Just putting a very light amount of color at the outside edge. Super easy. And that's all you have to do. That's it. And just soften that a little. Just diffuses those edges of the floats. Very pretty. I love Bahama Blue. It's such a great color. Is a larger mop better to soften the edge? I have several different sizes, and I usually base it on the amount of space that I'm working in. This one happens to be my favorite. This one's a nice big soft mop, so if I'm doing bigger floats, I like the bigger brush. And if I'm doing small, little tiny floats, then I like the smaller brush. And yes, Nancy, my mop brush is a Dynasty one. This is the 400 series, or what's known as the Decorator series. And this mop, this is a 7/8. It comes in a variety of sizes. This is one of the larger ones, but there is another larger one, but I like this one. This is sort of my go-to for most things. You can also get them in a smaller size like this one. This is a 5/8. And this is also a good size. But these are the two that I use the most often. And you can tell because I've got paint all over. Easy peasy. So we're going to talk about riggers. Basic lettering techniques. I've got a number 2 rigger. This one's brand spanking new, still has the new car smell. So this is a number 2 rigger. It's a Dynasty faux squirrel. Looks like a liner brush. Most people look at it, the first thing they think is that it's a liner brush. But if you flatten it out, it forms a chisel edge like a shader, which makes it ideal for doing lettering. I chose a number 2 because it's about half the width of the lettering. This is the most versatile size, in my opinion, is this number 2, simply because I can paint lettering up to 1/4 of an inch wide using a number 2 because of the splay of the brush, the way the brush opens up when you put pressure on it. So the more pressure you put on, the wider the brush gets. So a number 2 I found is the most versatile, that I can go in, do smaller lettering, and I can also do something a little bit bigger like this, hello. The other rigger that I use pretty frequently is a 0. So I can use, this is a little finer than this one, and it provides me with lots of really fine detail, and I can do all of the smaller, more delicate scripts and lettering with it. It also is a really nice length. It's not a super long brush, so you don't get that little bend and a twist and it takes off on you. This brush gives you a lot of control. So if you're wondering why I use this one, that's why, because it's all about how much control you have. Now, when I'm painting lettering, you're going to use a fair amount of water or glaze. I use Jo Sonja's Fast Dry Glaze to thin out your paint. It should be about the consistency of milk. And then you load up the brush. Now, when you load a brush, it should look like it has lots of paint in it, not necessarily paint on it, which means you should still be able to make out the bristles and the filament in the brush. And if there's a teardrop shape to it, then it's too much paint and you need to work some out. Now, I press my brush, tap it to open it up so that I get that chisel edge. And then I press down until the brush fills the space, and I pull the stroke. Now, if you can do it in one pull, good for you. But if you have to come back and fill in, that's okay. I don't always get it on the first pull either, so. But it does give you a tremendous amount of control over your lettering. And it lets you paint nice, clean letters. Then back in, pick up some more paint. And take your time. There's no rush. If you take your time doing this and just do it in nice long pulls, pressure on the brush, let it fill the space, do it in nice long pulls, you're going to get nice clean lettering. And it does not have to be absolutely perfectly opaque the first time around. You can come back and put another coat on if you don't like how it looks. And I probably will, because white doesn't necessarily cover as well as we would like. I seriously considered using my Posca pens to do this lettering, but I really honestly prefer the look of the hand-painted look. Although the Posca pens will do a great job, and they will be nicely opaque, there's just something about the painted lettering that just appeals to me. And I enjoy painting it. Oh, Patricia, you got to try a rigger. It does give you a cleaner look. It's so hard to paint lettering when you have to outline it first and then go back in and fill it in. Things never come out as smoothly as you would like. I've always found with a rigger that you can get that nice clean look, and it still looks hand painted, but the lettering looks very smooth and professional. It doesn't look choppy and irregular. You can have fun doing it. Super easy. There we go. Lettering does not need to be frightening. When you trace things on, especially if they have a lot of vertical and horizontal lines, make sure you use a ruler on those straight up lines. You're going to erase anything that shows up anyway, so it's all good. So cut yourself a slack. Make your life as simple as possible. If you're going to be painting lettering, make sure you have nice straight lines to work against. Elizabeth Bradburn Beth. Hello from Scotland. And where are you visiting in Scotland? Beautiful country. Edinburgh is incredible. If you've never been, it is an absolutely spectacular place to visit. Many moons ago, I went to Scotland to see where my grandfather was born. And when he was a child, it was nothing but farmland where he lived. And now it's a suburban area of Glasgow. And look at that. My granddad was born in Scotland, in Coatbridge. Coatbridge, I should say. I keep wanting to say Coatesbridge, but that's not it. It's Coatbridge. Lovely country. So, hello. It's a pretty simple lettering. As I said, you can come back in. I've got a few spots here I think are a little thin. But it's an easy enough job to just come in and fill them in a little bit. She's Glaswegian. Glasgow is a busy city. But lovely nonetheless. And the best thing about Scotland is its people. I will tell you that. There's, I don't think, a more straightforward race of people on the planet, which is wonderful. There's never any doubt of where you stand with a Scot. Wow. My grandfather was the youngest son of a family of 13, and his youngest sister was born on the boat coming over. Very large farming family. Pam is one of my favorite Brits. Still remember the day I met you, Pam, vividly. You were just an absolute sweetheart. I still have that scarf too, by the way, and still wear it. There. Hello. We have hello. So that, although it's very difficult to see it at the very beginning, that little shadow is just enough to lift the lettering off of the surface just a little bit. If you were using Lilac Meadow for the background, what would you use to shade the daisies? I tend to go to very dark and very transparent colors. One of my favorites for shading that Lilac Meadow color, believe it or not, is Purple Iris. And if you don't have that, then Dioxazine Purple. I really like that dark transparency. And I like the disparity. So when you look at Lilac Meadow, well, even just look at Bahama Blue, there's our base color and this is our shading color. So I like that extreme dark, but very transparent. That's my personal preference. So I have some Lilac Meadow. There's Lilac Meadow, and this is Purple Iris. So very big difference between the two colors, but this is a very transparent purple. So you can thin this out dramatically to do the shading over top of this, which is that Lilac Meadow right there. And what a pretty combination that would be to use that pretty purple in the background. I think that would be really, really nice. And then when you're doing your daisies, I would use a little bit of that, this purple for the shading in the centers of the flowers. Because, and my reasoning is this, if I go to a blue in there, now you've got two separate color palettes. So you have to bring one of these colors into the floral in one way or another. And so ideally, I would bring just a smidge of this darker purple into those flowers, because that's what I shade these daisies with. I shade them with that Mystic Teal. So you have to move those colors around in order to make things balance properly. The other thing is that because you're using a purple like this, it's a little cooler than the green that I used. So again, you're deviating from that color palette, and this color palette relies heavily on these teal tones. I would look at using a soft gray, like a dove gray, and then bring in a little of the purple to shade it for these leaves. I think that that would work really nice. Great, great colors. Now, I've got pretty little leaves in here, and I chose an older color from the Decor line, and somebody asked me today if they didn't have it, what could they use? You could use aloe, just put a little touch of white in it just to lighten the value a little bit. Or if you can use, I'm using sage mint. Now the reason I chose the sage mint was because it's a little cooler green and a little grayed out. I didn't want a high bright green for this. So I chose this sage mint, nice cool green. Still kind of falls into, I'm going to bring this over here so you can see the color choices. So that Mystic Teal will shade this quite nicely. It also shades that blue quite nicely. So there's a reason I brought in a very specific tone for the leaves. I'm going to grab a small round brush. So all of our little leaves are going to get a base coat of that sage mint. It's a nice opaque green. It's a little different. It stands out a little, which is what I want, just a little. But we'll tie it to the other to the color palette using that Mystic Teal. So all of our leaves get a base coat of that sage mint. It's a pretty green. It's very mellow. And mellow is good. There we are. It's soft. I kind of like that. I really like the subtlety of it. It's not an in-your-face green. I think that would be a bit much for this piece. And the whole idea was to keep this cool and light. That was the whole point, to maintain a very soft and almost delicate look to this. And so it all starts with your color palette. So you need a nice soft and delicate color palette. So hence I'm using Sage Mint. Nice soft green. High white level. It has a lot of white in it. There was a color years ago called Celery. I haven't seen it in ages, but it's also a really nice color for this, but a little more green. Just a little. But I think that color would also work fairly well. Pretty, pretty. Soft and delicate. That's what we're going for here. What really delicate colors. Light, airy. Hello, son.
Not getting the Facebook feed?
Oh, yeah, I'm getting it. Seem to be only getting Facebook. Yeah. Piece would go well with a mid-century. Yes, it would. The mid-century pieces, that was very popular to see a lot of polka dots, soft, delicate, not quite pastel colors.
There we go. We got YouTube now.
Okay. For some reason, we weren't getting the YouTube feed. Hi, Desiree.
No, I got somebody on YouTube saying they don't think the Facebook feed was working.
Oh.
It's quite the opposite.
Yeah, I'm getting the Facebook feed, but I wasn't getting the YouTube feed. Cheryl Buckland, Crane Creek Winery, best of both worlds, sipping wine and watching Tracy. I have wine. I could go get wine. No, a little early for that. For me. Well, for me. I'll be asleep by supper time. JL, at Renee, ask him to do a few more things before treating.
Bingo.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. Get him to complete more commands before getting a reward.
Yeah.
That's how you wean them off rewards. And then you can turn your reward into
I
praise.
saw a question there. Where did it go? What was the green? Oh, the green color that I used is this one, Sage Mint. And the shading color that we're going to use is this one. It's Mystic Teal. And if you don't have Mystic Teal, you can always use Mermaid Tail. That will work as well. Does room... So it's a very soft green. I love how this looks with this. It's very delicate. So
properly.
Janet Roach, I'm getting closed captions before your voice actually says it. So something's a little out of whack. A little bit.
That could be upload speed.
Yeah, exactly. What is the measurement of the board that I'm using? This one is I believe. Just a second. It's a 4.5 by 12. I had to measure it because I couldn't remember.
Freedom units?
Pardon me?
In freedom units?
In freedom units, yes. Yeah. Okay.
Not metric?
Not metric, freedom units,
freedom
yeah.
Units. That's what the F in Fahrenheit means.
Is it? Freedom units. Okay. Good to know. So, one of the reasons I did this piece, aside from the obvious that it's really pretty and fun, was because I thought it would be great fun to come back to basics, which was just talking about some basic lettering, some basic shading. But let's really talk about these, some very basic stroke work. And one of the most common and oddly enough, not really taught that much anymore, is comma strokes. So a comma stroke is usually done with a round brush or a filbert. And you load the brush, press down, curve, don't roll the brush, don't twist the brush, just pull the stroke, and then slowly release the pressure on the brush. And then learn to do them in both directions, just like that. Now, I'm using a comma stroke for a reason because we're going to paint these daisies just using stroke work. So, although we have a line drawing there, it is merely a guide for what we're going to do next. So, I'm going to move this out of the way, move my gun out of the way. So, I'm going to start, I'm using a number 4 round, and I've loaded it with a little bit of warm white. And we're going to stroke in these daisies. And they're such a simple flower, but it does take a little bit of practice. So press down and pull back towards the center of the flower. Press down. So I like to do the back row of petals first on all of the flowers, because then if I need to adjust anything, I can do it. So I'm just using that line drawing as a guide. So they don't have to be exactly the way the line drawing is. If you're more comfortable, I just realized something. If you're more comfortable painting them in, then by all means, but learning to do this type of stroke work teaches you a great deal about brush control. And that is never a bad thing. I didn't have to reload. A little bit of Joe Sonia's in your paint. You don't have to reload. You can actually paint quite a bit. See? And those little daisies down at the front, look at that. There's another one down here in the corner. Just stroke those in. Again, don't overthink it. Try not to overthink it. I know we all overthink it. But you don't have to work too hard to do these. Yes, you're going to have brush marks. That's okay. It works in your favor in this particular case. So I've got a few little daisies in there. And then we've got one nice big one right here. And yes, I'm going to overlap some of these flowers, and it's okay. There we go. Now, I like doing the stroke work. I like doing the stroke work because it gives the flowers a less structured and more natural appearance. They tend to be quite soft and quite delicate. They do, however, have an extended ugly stage. So just be a little patient.
Okay.
What's that?
That makes more sense now. There's a lot of white around that green, so it doesn't show up on the camera very well.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So I'm going to dry this, and then we're going to paint the centers of these flowers. And then we're going to do the remaining portions of these flowers. But they need to be dry before I tackle the next part. So remember, we're talking about the shading color. I use this same dark green, that same mystic teal, to shade these flowers. And it's going to throw you, I know it will, because it's scary to use a dark color over white. But I'm going to float this out, and we're going to put a little U-shaped float right at the base of each of those petals, like that. You've seen me paint sunflowers this way. We're going to paint daisies this way. So little float, darkest value towards the center of the flower. Just like that.
Can someone tell me the purple colors?
The purple color, somebody had asked about if they wanted to paint this with purple tones as opposed to blue. And so the colors that I recommended to do that were lilac meadow and purple iris. Those are the two colors. So the lilac meadow being your base color, and then the purple iris being your shading color. And then for the small leaves, I would switch it out from that mint green to, say, a gray. I think a gray would work very nicely.
I'm going to zoom in. Hopefully.
Faye, have fun working in the garden.
I'm going to try and zoom in a bit better here.
Yeah.
If it'll let me.
Yeah.
There we go.
The other thing you guys are probably going to notice, there's no asphaltum in this piece. Not even a little bit.
You just lost a bunch of subscribers. No asphaltum. That's ridiculous.
So that little bit of the mystic teal in there, all it does is just give us a little shadow back there. It's hard to see it at this moment. As soon as I put the yellow in, you'll see it. So the center of our flowers is this baby duck. Such a pretty yellow. Such a pretty yellow. And I'm going to grab my round and pick up a little bit of baby duck. And I'm just going to stipple in a little round. I'm just bouncing my brush in to form a center. Nothing fancy, right? This one is super simple, easy peasy. Doesn't have to be it does not have to be perfect. But now you can see where that shadow makes a difference. And now we've got depth behind that center of the flower. Am I feeling okay? Yes, Carol. I knew somebody would say something. So I'm going to dry that, and then we're going to use a little bit of tea berry. A little bit of tea berry. I am very quickly falling in love with this color. It is such a pretty, I hate to call it a coral. It isn't really a coral. It is a red, but it's just such a fabulous tone. Yes, baby duck for the center. Renee has 911 on speed dial. He still doesn't believe me. That's all. He just doesn't believe me. So I'm going to use a little bit of that tea berry, and we're going to shade the bottom of these centers, just the bottom, with a little float of tea berry. Whoops. A little too much tea berry. There we go. I just want to get a soft orangey tone in there. Just like so. That little bit of tea berry just gives these a little bit of oomph. So we get that little orangey tone in there, and it just brightens them up big time. Wonderful. Look how simple. Simplicity often is the best. So I'm going to dry that. And now we're going to come in with that round brush this time. And we're going to put in the last remaining petals. You can do it, Denise. You can do it. Most people didn't think I could paint without asphaltum, but I can. I don't want to, but I can. So I'm going to grab my round. And as I said, you can do this with a small filbert if you prefer. If you're not fond of working with a round, you like to work with a filbert, by all means, use the filbert. Whatever makes you happy. So I'm going to pick up some warm white, and we're going to finish the strokes on our little daisies. Daisies are just so pretty. Easy peasy. There we go. So I just stroked in the remainder of those little petals, usually only 2 or 3 along the bottom. Takes a little bit of practice. They don't have to be perfect comma strokes either. That's half the fun. But because you've put that shadow in behind already, you instantly get depth. Whatever trips your trigger. Whatever blows your hair back. Well, I mean, look how simple and how pretty. It's all those bright tea berry. I love that color. I'm going to pick up a little more tea berry. I really see this one here. I really love the brightness of that one. So there's a couple here that I just find are not quite bright enough. So I'm going to pop a little float of tea berry in there just to bring them up a bit. There we go. That's much better. Now they're all pretty much the same. Okay, Debbie, I always paint the back ones first, let them dry, and then shade them, and then I put the center in. It just instantly gives you a whole bunch of depth with very little effort. And then once the center is done, then you paint in the last 2 or 3 petals that are in the front. It just gives them instant depth so that it makes it so much simpler to paint them. So I'm going to dry this, and we're going to shade some leaves and make these pop a little bit. This is where we're going to use that Mystic Teal. I'm really a big fan of Mystic Teal. I love the transparency of this color. It works exceptionally well for a bunch of different things. But I'm going to bring a little bit of that Mystic Teal onto the palette, thin it out. It needs to be quite thin. And I'm using my, this one is my 5/0 extra long detail liner. And I want to put in a few blades of grass. Now, the line drawing has them in place, but honestly, you can put them wherever you want. And they're just long strokes. Keep them loose. They don't have to be exactly the same as what's in the line drawing. The idea behind them is just to soften this. It just gives everything a nice soft look to have those little blades in there. And then we're just going to stroke in a few little stems here and there. They don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be obvious. We're just stroking them in with a little bit of that mystic teal. It's such a delicate color. Surprisingly, not as dark and in your face as you expect it to be. So don't be afraid to just stroke in a little bit here and there. And I think that will do nicely. As I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. I like the little fine lines. It just makes things look soft and airy. If you get really heavy, dark stems, it starts to get very weighty. It starts to get heavy. What can I use if I don't have baby duck? You can use Sunny Day, will work just fine. If you have banana cream, that will work too. You just need a soft, sunny yellow. I like it. I'm liking it. So we've got a whole bunch of leaves back there that need some love. We're going to shade those with some heavily thinned Mystic Teal, which means you're going to work with a small amount of this color and blend it out well. And you're going to put a shadow at the base of the leaf where it joins the stem. And it's just a simple float. Does not have to be dark, just enough to change the value of the green, just a little. So don't feel that you have to drastically change it, that it's going to be a dark shadow, because it really isn't. It's soft and subtle. But it does help define these leaves a little bit. And put a little bit underneath where the petals overlap. Don't forget to do that. Here we go. As I said, it doesn't have to be a really dark shadow. And I know you can hardly see it. So I'm going to bring it up a little closer to the camera. Very soft. And just at the base of the leaf where it joins the stem. There we go. So those leaves also need a highlight. And I'm going to use a little bit of warm white. And we're going to put just a soft float of thinned warm white at the upper edge of each of those leaves. It's very soft. And it's going to come back and overlap the shadow just a little. And it just makes these leaves look a little more delicate. They don't have to be perfect. And if you've created some sort of a boundary or an edge with the Mystic Teal, that little float of warm white is going to soften it. Nice little float. Lots of Joe Sonias in the brush, little bit of warm white. Gives you these nice soft floats. And the same with those pointed leaves, little float out to the point. Nothing fat, nothing over the top. And then we're going to come back in with that liner brush and that Mystic Teal. And we're going to connect all of these leaves to a center stem. And it's a nice fine line. So don't overthink it. Try to make it as fine as you can, but again, it doesn't have to be perfect. And all it does is just connect all of these leaves to the rest of the motif. So now, when you look at this, everything has a little bit more weight. And if we went with heavy, thick lines, everything would start to get very heavy looking. So we've got some really cute little leaves out here. I'm going to stroke in that. I like to go around the edge of those pointed leaves with my liner and that Mystic Teal. It just gives a little more definition to those leaves. Do the same thing on these little ones up here. Keeps them looking nice and soft. And now we have to detail these daisies a little bit. They need a little something something in there. So I'm going to, where is my, I'm going to grab my rigger. If I can find it. There it is. Now we're going to add a few little dip dots for highlight onto these flowers. We're going to make these centers look a little fluffy. So I like tiny little dots. And I'm going to bring them out onto the petals just a little. It just softens the centers and adds a little more elevation to the center of the flower. And at the same time, it acts like a highlight. So we have light in the center of our flowers. Any little odds and sods that don't quite pretty, pretty. Look at that. So a little bit of white in the center. Now I'm going to use a little bit of lamp black. Just a little. I don't often use lamp black for this. I'm going to use some tiny little dip dots along the bottom in the shaded area. Just a few. You don't need them too close together. They're teeny tiny. It's just enough to give a little shadow in there. You can see it's very, very tiny and not a lot of it. And then we're going to do some tweaking on this. Deepen some shadows. Clean up a few little things. Just to make everything come together really nicely. And I missed the highlight on that one altogether. Now we want to make these flowers pop forward a little bit because they are at the front of this piece and the lettering is towards the back of the piece. So we need to do something to set that lettering back a little. And we're going to do that with a little bit of a shadow underneath the floral. So a little bit of that Mystic Teal. Thin it out. Load up your brush. Lots of glaze. And we're going to put a shadow right here under that petal. And a little one here under that petal. Right on the lettering. And I'm going to dry it and then I'm going to repeat it. There we go. Now the trick to getting a nice smooth float is to make sure that your whole chisel edge of your brush is laying on the surface. Zoom in more. Unfortunately, I can't zoom in any further. I have to actually bring it up to the camera so you can see what I'm doing. So just a little shadow of that Mystic Teal just to push that letter back a little and to bring this one forward. There. So I'm going to dry this really well. And then we're going to talk about our butterfly. There we go. I like to make sure everything's nice and dry. I love it. I love daisies. I think in the summertime, daisies are my favorite flower. So I'm going to set this aside for the time being. Now, on my original, I used this dimensional butterfly. I love butterfly, and I like the addition of something that is not sitting directly on the surface or painted onto the surface. I really like that little extra dimension. Although when I did this one and I glued it down, I realized that I didn't do anything with the edges. Ordinarily I do, and this time I didn't. So that kind of frustrated me. So when I prepped my piece for this one, I made sure that I painted the edges because that drove me crazy. Now, we have a 1/8 polka dot stencil, which I wanted to carry the theme of the polka dots onto this surface, onto the butterfly, but the 1/4 inch polka dot is too large and it just didn't work. It made the butterfly look a little chunky. So I decided to switch to a smaller stencil. And one of the first problems I ran into was the size of the stencil. So, as you know, most of the time, well, not most of the time, whenever we ship an order, we always send you a free stencil. It can be almost anything. We do all sorts of fun and interesting things. But we added something to our product line. I added a new series of stencils to the product line. And one of the things that we did was we took the stencils that are the most popular. Because people are doing ornaments, they're doing small things like these pins. It can be very difficult to do those little things. So I took our most popular stencils and we put them into these little 3x3s and sell them as a set. So we have a 1/8 in a small 3x3 stencil. And the set comes with the 1/8 polka dot, the 1/4 inch polka dot. So you could use these to do this piece. We have a 1/8 checkerboard and the 1/4 inch checkerboard. We have a 3/8 inch honeycomb, and then we have the knit pattern in the 3x3, and those are all in one set. So it's a whole lot easier to do these little tiny surfaces with a smaller stencil. It's just easier to manage. So I'm going to line up my stencil on my butterfly. And I base coated the butterfly with warm white. It just is such a simple thing, but warm white, just reversing the color palette from the signage. And so I've got warm white, and the color I'm going to use to stencil with is the same as our background color, which is Bahama Blue. So I'm going to load up my small stencil brush with a little bit of Bahama Blue, and I'm going to position my stencil so that I get the biggest bang for my buck. I get the most polka dots on my butterfly, and then I'm going to stencil with Bahama Blue. Easy peasy. There we are. And ta-da! I have a little blue butterfly. And these little stencils are so easy to keep clean. All you need is a little bit of hand sanitizer and a cosmetic sponge or a cosmetic, what do you call those things? A cosmetic wipe. They work really well. So I've got baby wipe. And ta-da, ta-da. Just wipe it off with a little cosmetic wipe or a little baby wipe. And if it's dry, you can use a little hand sanitizer. So there we go. Just like new. Super easy. I love the small stencils. They're perfect for doing little projects like this. So I managed to get polka dots on the head and the body of my butterfly, which I didn't intend to do, but it's easily fixed. So a little bit of lamp black for the body. And I'm going to dig out my gold paint pen. Maybe, if I can find it. Is that gold? Nope. I need my gold paint pen. Ah, there it is. Okay, so I got my gold paint pen. I'm going to dry this real quick. As you can see, this piece works up very quickly. And you can decide where your butterfly is going to go. It doesn't have to go where I put it. You can put it wherever you want. If you wanted to, you could put it down there. That would be pretty. Up here. There's all kinds of places you put it. I just really like the location here. It just brings a little extra oomph, a little extra drama to our piece. So we're going to shade our butterfly with that Mystic Teal. And again, we're not using the color Full Strength, but we are going to shade across the bottom like so, just to separate these wings, or winglets, I guess. I'm going to grab my mop brush. Where did I put? Go. So close to the body. I like to shade close to the body. There we go. So nice little shadow. One to separate the wings, float in close to the body on both sides. So we get a nice soft little shadow. And then dry it and then repeat it. We want to make this a little bit deeper so that we can get some oomph. So a little deeper, one more float just to make things nice and deep. Oh, I love that mystic teal. Such a pretty, pretty teal. So, there we go. Mini butterflies. I just got a bunch in. We haven't had a chance to update the website yet, but we just got about 200 butterflies in. So I love this teal on the butterfly. It's very pretty. But we do need to soften this. So we're going to take a little float. You can use titanium white. You can use warm white. Either one will work. We're just going to put a nice little float of warm white right over top of everything at the edge of those winglets. And all it does is just subdue that polka dots at the edge a little bit, just softens the overall appearance. And at the same time, it also softens any little boundaries between that shading that we just put on. So we get this softer look, a little more muted. When it comes to Carol Colbert, when I clean my stencils, baby wipes are handy if the paint is fresh. It'll clean them up very nicely if the paint is fresh. If they're not, then I use a hand sanitizer and a scrub brush. And the longer it's been there, obviously, the harder it is going to be clean. But yes, Carol, I did. I got that. They're 2.5-inch butterflies. Yeah. And I have the teacups coming. The shelf sitters, we do have those. Do I have the wooden daisies? No, I don't, Louise, but they are available from Stockade. I did get a bunch of the daisies in, but they are the giveaways that we're doing this month in the order. So we're doing little pin kits. So these little daisies are in with your fresh tea and whatnot. So yeah, I did a bunch of these. So some of these have been mailed out. So just saying. And yes, I have 500 bees right now. We got those in as well. 500 bees is a lot of bees. I also, the other one that I got that is not up on the website, we got ladybugs. So we're going to add a little highlight to the center of the body here. A little float of warm white just to put a little highlight on. And then I gotta find my gel pen. Here is my gel pen. You didn't think I was gonna not use my gel pen. So I like to do this very loose and squiggly line around the edges of my wings. And I do 2 or 3 laps around just because I like that sort of irregular threaded look around there. You could do this as stitch marks if you prefer. You could do whatever you want. But I just like this sort of irregular squiggly line. It's just how I like doing it. And quite honestly, there's no real wrong way to do this. You could, if you prefer a stitch line or a straight line or not at all, feel free. You can do whatever you want. It's your piece. How have I finished the daisy? Oh, Ruth, I actually used a UV resin just to put on the petals, and then I painted the center. It just gives it a slightly more dimensional look. It's a fun way to do it.
Boop.
Boo. So while I am finishing off our butterfly,
How have you finished the daisy pin?
yeah, we just talked about that.
Oh, did you?
Yep.
Okay.
So now we have a nice little dimensional butterfly. Now, on my original, I used a couple of little pieces of wood. You can use wooden buttons. I have bunches of these that I use. These are just little leftover bits from laser cutters. I get them by the bag, a couple hundred at a time. And I use these to elevate pieces. So you can pick and choose how high you want them to be. I chose this time around, instead of using two, which I did on the first one, I chose one and I stacked up two of these things just to give the butterfly a little more height. And I like the elevation. So you can pick and choose where you want to put the butterfly. If you want it to be closer to the word hello, you can move it. You can put it wherever you want. I'm kind of partial so that it overlaps the, I've changed my mind. So that it overlaps things a little bit. I went a little too high, I think. But that's okay. So I'm using a great glue. One of my members turned me on to this glue because this stuff is fabulous. This is called Art Glitter. Is the brand name is called Art Glitter. The paint is dries clear adhesive. This is a permanent water-based, non-toxic, and dries acid-free. It is an amazing craft glue. I just love it. And you don't need much. So little dab will do you. Put a little dab onto the back of your piece. And then you can glue it in place. And like I said, I like mine to just slightly overlap the motif a little bit. I think it adds a little something to this, but you can decide where you want to put things. Now, one of my favorite things, I like finished edges. I don't like pieces that, have that sort of wonky edge. I like the edges on things like this finished. One of the things that I use frequently for finishing edges is this. This is a Deco Color Premium gold paint pen. These are made by Yoshida. I really like these. They're easy to find. They're affordable. You don't have to pay through the nose for them. And they work exceptionally well. And the other one that I use quite frequently is this one. It's a chrome marker from Let's Resin. Also pretty easy to find, also reasonably priced. And both of them work very well for what I'm doing. So to finish my edges, I like to take my gold paint pen and just go along the edge of my piece. I just like having that nice metallic finish at the edges. It just cleans things up. It just makes it look so much more professional, having that clean finished edge. Not to mention, how bad can it be to have a little bit of bling on something? So, all the way along. And if you need to put another coat on, you just simply go back and put another coat on. But I find that both of these pens actually give you really great coverage. You don't have to mess around too much with it. The other nice thing is that if you want a little bit of that gold to show on the front of your piece, all you have to do is just make sure that the pen overlaps onto the front of the surface just a little bit. So if I wanted to add a little bit of a gold border, I just put the edge of my pen on the surface, like so. And then I end up with a nice thin gold bead along the front of my piece. And it's so easy to control it this way. So finish your edges. I like my edges finished. That little bit of gold, you could do this with silver too. It would be very pretty, but I think the gold actually plays very nicely with that Bahama blue.
I got somebody wondering if you got the pens back in stock.
Which pens?
Signos?
Yes, we do have them back in stock. And we also have the my design kit, my design favorites. The bundle is back in stock. We made a change to them. They now come in one of the little create bags. So we just added a little bonus to them, that's all. So, see, I love that little flash of gold at the edge. It just makes it pretty.
Warms it up.
Warms it up a little bit. Plays very nicely with that Bahama blue. It's very pretty.
What resin do you use?
Oh, that's an easy one. The resin that I'm using is this one. It's called Sana. It's a UV resin. This is a little kit. Comes complete. You've got a nice little six ounce bottle of the resin. Plus it comes with the UV light and a small toolkit and a couple of other things in there too. But this one I find it's odorless, doesn't have that strong smell, works very, very well, and it sets up in about 30 seconds. So it's a very quick one. It's also affordable. This whole kit was about $29 Canadian from Amazon. Super easy. And it's enough. It's enough. You don't have to have a gallon of resin.
Charmaine says, you're a force of nature. Do you ever relax?
Yes. All the time. My brain just keeps going. That's all. I spent most of my week framing pieces and going through finished pieces from the last year. Yes, I know. Somewhere we have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 boxes full of finished pieces, and those are the duplicates.
Yeah.
So yes,
Not originals?
Most of the originals are hung up. They're either on the walls down here or they're scattered around the house. Most of them.
Jeez.
But yeah, 8 boxes full of finished pieces. That's crazy. What's that?
Lots of flowers.
I like flowers.
Nice. Couldn't tell. I like the poppies.
That's an old one.
I know. I like it.
So that's how I like to finish off my edges. Now to hang this, I think, don't you think that a white ribbon, a grosgrain ribbon, or a white one with maybe polka dots or something simple? Denise Chavez, does Sandy have the stencils on her website? Not the minis, no. Not these minis.
You get those by placing orders.
Well, the new set, no. We have a set of 6. But we kind of wanted to do some basic stencils. Some of our most popular ones as minis. So I have a set of 6. We've got the 1/4-inch polka dot, the 1/4-inch check, the 1/8 check, the 1/8 polka dot, the knit stencil, which is really popular for doing Christmas ornaments, and then the honeycomb, which has been ridiculously popular. So we just put them into a set of 6. And then you can collect all of the little 3x3s and add them to that collection, because we put out a new one every couple of months.
What size is the flower pin?
This one, I believe it's 2.5 inches. I believe, don't quote me. It's 2 inches. It's a 2-inch daisy. And they're super cute. They make really cute pins. You can have so much fun with these. A little bit of green ribbon back there, make it really nice. So I have a few things on this that I'm not 100% thrilled with. My lettering in a couple of places isn't as clean as I would like it. I'll go back in a little later and fix that up. These are just things that you can't see on the screen that I can see because it's right in front of my face. And I'm my own worst critic, you know. It's to me it stands out like a bear on a bicycle. So that is our hello summer welcome sign. Fun little piece. You can finish this up with a couple of light coats of Decor matte spray. I really love how that looks. I just like the finish. I'm a matte person. I prefer a matte finish. And so a couple of light coats of Decor matte spray, and then I'll probably hit this with one or two coats of Decor Ultra Matte Varnish. That's my favorite. And before anybody asks, this one is actually going to my next door neighbor. She requested it. So, so that is Hello Summer. And I did see a question here about could I demo the resin sometime? Absolutely. We can do that. The resin is very easy to use.
Switch cameras here.
So yes, we absolutely could demo that. It's a simple product to work with. It's very user-friendly. It comes in a squeeze bottle. It's got a nice little point on it, so it makes it very simple to work with. It also makes it very accurate. The bottle is soft, so if you have trouble with stiff fingers or sore hands, whatnot, it's also very easy to work with. So yeah, we can absolutely do that for you. And no, I thought I saw another question.
You could do a silent auction for the extra paintings as a fundraiser?
Yeah.
For the puppers?
For the puppers. That's not a bad idea. All painters are their own worst critics. Yes, I agree.
All right. Ready for this wheel?
I am. We have 3 giveaways today. We always try to do 3. Make 3 people happy. So the giveaway today includes a great set of pencils.
I clicked.
Did you? Oh, that's okay.
Clicked somewhere I wasn't supposed to.
All set? Oh, we have a winner. Wow. Fiorentino Lady Di. Diane Fiorentino. It's the name.
Is that what it is?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
You got sticky notes.
I got sticky notes.
Okay. So the giveaways today include a great little set of pencils from Tombow, along with one of the Tombow erasers. If you're going to get an eraser, a Tombow white mono eraser, they're fantastic. They'll remove graphite lines. They'll remove a whole bunch of things. I also am steadfastly in love with the Tombow black eraser, just saying. But the giveaways today have a Tombow mono eraser, a set of Tombow's drawing pencils, professional drawing pencils, my favorite, and also a 5-brush set of Dynasty minis. So there's a mini fan, a mini flat shader, and 3 detail liners in there. So in various sizes. So super tiny, great for doing all of that little itty bitty stuff, especially if you're going to be painting ornaments. So we have 3 of those to give away, and the first one goes to Diane Florentino.
Lady Di.
Lady Di.
All right, next one. Number 2.
Liz Garcia.
Liz Garcia.
Liz is in Southern Ontario, around the Hamilton area.
You know people.
I do know people. Liz is a super lady.
Liz Garcia.
Yep. And we've got one more. So all you have to do, just hop on to the website at tracymoreau.net, click on the little speech bubble in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, and send us your shipping information. And Nancy Rodriguez.
I'm wondering why it's all in capital letters. We just copied and pasted. So.
Yeah. Nancy Rodriguez is our last winner today. Congratulations. So make sure you hop onto the website and send us your shipping information so that we can get things out as quickly as possible. For those of you that are missing an order or waiting on an order, we had a bunch of things come back from U.S. Customs, so we're trying to work through those. There was a fair amount of them. We're trying to work through those and fix the paperwork so that we can get them back out. So if you have one that has not shown up, please bear with us. We're trying to get that sorted out. There's been a whole bunch of changes to Canada Post system and a whole bunch of changes to the customs system. So we're gradually getting caught up.
That one.
There we go. And just checking to make sure I haven't missed a question or if anybody has one before we go. It is a pain, Denise, but you know what? It's okay. As long as we can get it done. All right, guys, that's it for us this weekend. Thanks so much for joining us again this Saturday. Next Saturday, we are painting a Father's Day piece. It's so hard to find a Father's Day design, like a masculine themed design in this day and age. Everything is either beer, barbecue, racing, fishing, golf, hunting. And even that, it's hard to find something with motorcycles. So, which was the reason I sat down and I thought that maybe a vintage barbershop sign would be a fun one to do. So that project, the pattern is now up on the website. And there's also a bonus phone stand design. You can find that in the free printable section on the website.
What is your coupon code? For what?
For which? For my website?
Gotta find it.
Yeah. Well, actually, no, it goes in the newsletter now.
Oh, does it?
So, yes, but the coupon code right now is loyalty24.
Whoa.
That is your coupon code.
What about a hot air balloon?
Val, no, you don't, my dear. I have your shipping information. Dad's office. Oh, that would be fun, too. So, where is my sign? I think it's under there. Under that stack of patterns there. Maybe. I keep losing things in here. It's one of those.
Is that the surface?
That's the surface. I think the painted piece is in there somewhere. So the surface looks like this. It's a banner. So you could use this to hang on somebody's office door or in the bathroom or wherever you like. It's a fun piece to paint. Oh, I see it, bud. It's right behind you. Underneath the giveaways. See, I put things down and I forget where I put them. So this one's got sort of a faux wood panel in the background. It's going to be a fun one for Father's Day. An old-time barber shaving a haircut, 10 cents. So this is the piece that we are doing next Saturday, just in time for Father's Day. It can be done on almost anything, quite honestly. Deb went to the trouble of creating this plaque for me. I really love the shape. I think it works really well. But if you're looking for an alternative surface, this one measures 6 by 11. We made it so that it would ship easily. So it's a 6 by 11. So you can easily find an alternative surface for this if you are not keen on doing the banner. So hopefully you join us next Saturday, same place, same bat channel. We're here.
Time, same bat channel.
We are here every Saturday from 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, and we paint a fun piece and just generally have a good time. So please join me. I'd love to have you. We're going to have a little bit of fun. And because it's going to be a Father's Day project, we have some special giveaways for that day. So please come and join us.
Are we giving away Dad?
No. No. I kind of like him.
Okay.
We're going to keep him. Do I have Deb Antonek, do you have a surface that's made up of puzzle pieces that interlock? Ooh, that'd be cool. That would be cool. All right, everybody. Have a great weekend. To my friends in the U.S., happy Memorial Day. Enjoy your long weekend. And please stay safe. We love ya.
Pet your dog. Didn't scare you that time.
No, thankfully. I didn't have this beard whiskers in my ear. Take care, everybody. Oops, that's not it. Where'd it go?
Mute.
I have to mute? Really?
Yes.
Okay.